So, today marks 90 days that I've been on the carnivore diet. And now, if you told me 6 months ago that I would be doing this and I would have done it for 90 days, I would have never believed you. It's so far removed from where I thought I was going. So, I'm not here to try and convince anybody to do what I'm doing. I'm an absolute 100% advocate for us getting in tune with our own body, listening to our body, getting to know ourselves and doing what feels right and paying attention to how we feel when we eat certain foods or when we leave out certain foods, and just get in touch with ourselves. So if I would encourage you to do one thing, is just listen to yourself. You are the best physician for yourself because you know your body better than anyone else. So I'm just going to share my experience. I'll just cover it in sort of, a few different areas. So what brought me here? What benefits have I experienced? And what am I eating? Not necessarily in that order. And let's just see where it goes, really. So what brought me here? Well, I've had dental issues for years. I've had problems with my teeth ever since I could remember. No matter what I've done, I seem to just attract tooth decay. So I've had all sorts of fillings and things right from childhood. And I've always enjoyed eating fruit and vegetables, and certainly I would consider that my diet would have been pretty good compared to most people's. It's not because I didn't brush my teeth either, despite that being suggested. And it's been an ongoing thing in my life, and I've tried different things at different times. I've thrown myself into eating a raw food diet for 6 months. That was probably about 10 years ago, and that didn't seem to change anything. I've eaten vegetarian at different times, and I've never actually been, or up until now, hadn't actually been a huge fan of meat. I mean, I've eaten it apart from those few spells, and I've eaten it throughout my life apart from that, but never been like a huge meat eater. So that's interesting too. So 6 months ago, I had some more dental issues after having spent thousands on fixing teeth, and I had all my amalgam fillings removed and replaced with composite fillings, and still decay came. And I went on a sort of more ketogenic kind of way of eating, so eating more meats, but still eating some green vegetables, and cutting out all grains, all sugar, all seed oils, being conscious about what I cook everything in, drinking better water, that kind of thing, filtered water, and did that for probably 2-3 months, and was noticing some benefits. Or my teeth did feel a bit better, and I did feel generally better, but I went back to the dentist and still decay seemed to be progressing, and I wasn't expecting miracle results at the time because, when you're trying to reverse big stuff, it can take time. I totally get that, but at the same time it just felt like I wasn't quite getting there, and I was at the point where thousands of pounds of work to be done, and I could end up losing the teeth anyway. So I could spend all this time and effort trying to save these teeth only to lose them in the end, which seemed to be that's where it was heading anyway. And that's where I got to the point where, okay, I'm going to have to just do something, make a big decision here. And I'd explored a more carnivore way of eating and of stripping back, and it's quite it's elimination kind of diet, isn't it? Or that's what it's considered. And it was one night when I knew the dentist was going to call me the next day and discuss how we were going forward. And I just thought, I've just got to go all in here. This is time to just commit seriously to stripping out more from my diet. And that's where committed to the carnivore diet. Now, I obviously looked into it. It wasn't just something that I just leapt into. It just seemed that everything was pointing to that from what I could see and what I could gather from other people that were having similar experiences, because I've explored it so many times in different ways. So I felt like I had no choice, just to fully commit. So that's what I did. I started just eating meat. What am I eating? I'm eating predominantly red meat, so fatty cuts of meat, so fatty mince, at least 20% fat mince if I can get it. Steak, again, fatty steak, ideally ribeye, but obviously that can be expensive, so just as fatty cut as I can get, and some roast beef joints as well. So red meat, plenty of salt on it as well, and lashings of butter, loads of butter. That's been a huge learning curve for me, the good fats that we need. So I cook everything in butter or beef tallow, and I eat butter again. Just and it blows my mind, because there's been times where I just thought, hang on a minute, am I really doing this? But I cannot deny how I feel, but I'll go into the benefits a bit more in a moment. So more about what I'm eating. Well, actually, that's mainly it. Oh, and dairy. So I'm having some dairy, but I'm sourcing raw milk, and I eat a bit of cheese as well. And if I do, it's raw cheese. And occasionally I treat myself to some Greek yogurts. And I haven't cut out coffee, which I know obviously is plant-based, but I'm keeping to just one coffee a day. And I think in the future, perhaps I'll cut that out too. But for now, I kind of, I feel like I benefit from keeping that in, but yeah, it could be one to consider for the future. And yeah, the only seasoning is salt, as I've mentioned, but Celtic salt. So that's what I'm eating. Health benefits. Well, I did this for my teeth, but I knew it was sort of obviously tied in with my gut health, because that's the conclusion that I got to. The only conclusion I could come to was there's something I needed to heal in my gut, because that was what's impacting my teeth. And that's what everything seemed to be pointing to. But before I get into the oral health side of things, which is a long term, I know I'm on a long term project with my teeth. They're not something that's going to be fixed or resolved overnight. But these other side effects have occurred. So my head feels clearer than it ever has. Now, I know people talk about brain fog, and it's not something that I've ever really felt like I've experienced. But the clarity I feel since I've been eating according to the carnivore lifestyle is just incredible. And quite early on, like within a week of starting really, that was just noticeable. It's like, oh, my head is so clear. It just feels so clear. I get no bloating or inflammation. I know that the foods I'm eating are not inflammatory, because my stomach doesn't react to them. I don't feel bloated after a meal. I don't get indigestion. You know, things that I'd kind of just thought, oh, well, that's just goes with having a big meal sort of thing. You feel a bit bloated afterwards, or a little bit of indigestion. That's just part of life. And I'm just not experiencing that anymore. And that, you know, there was a transition phase, obviously, with this. But certainly in the last, you know, it's just got better and better. I feel my gut health improving. My skin feels softer, more hydrated, just like more naturally moisturised. I'm putting that down to the butter. Sleep, not really had an issue with sleep in the past, but I'm certainly sleeping like a log, feel like even better quality of sleep that I'm getting now. The other thing, because of the certain time of life that I'm in at the moment, call it the menopause, and I was getting night sweats every night, or pretty much every night, for 2 or 3 months before I started eating in this way. And again, within a few days of switching to this way of eating, they just stopped, and I haven't had one since. So the last 90 days, no night sweats. And I'm pretty sure my mood has been pretty even as well. You need to ask other people around me for that, to be sure. But I know generally that my hormones are certainly much more in balance than they were previously. Again, something that I kind of accepted with where I was at in life. But maybe we don't need to experience these things, that we just accept. Something to think about. Energy throughout the day, there's no kind of peaks and troughs. It's pretty even during the day, and that's not something that I could have said before. I mean, quite often I'd feel quite drowsy in the afternoon. And also feel so satiated by my meals as well. Like, I'm not looking for snacks. I'm really not looking for snacks. I mean, I've had odd times where I've just thought, oh, maybe I could have a piece of chocolate or something. Around Christmas, obviously, that put that to the test. And I did have a couple of chocolate truffles. Now, I don't know why I had the second one, because the first one tasted so sweet. And I just thought, this is not something actually I want to do. And that sort of threw me, because I was like, oh, it's Christmas, I'll just have something. And yeah, I did it, and I just thought, actually, I really don't need to do that. So sugar cravings have definitely just not there, actually. So obviously that makes that a lot easier. I'm not saying that they weren't there a bit more sort of early on, but I was fairly strict with myself, because I just knew my reason for doing this was I'm making a commitment to myself. So that got me through that bit, but now they're just not there. And as for my oral health, well, I don't know for sure, but what I do know is that my teeth feel cleaner than they ever have between meals and things like that. It's almost like I almost feel like I don't necessarily need to clean them. I still am, because I want to do everything to help them. But yeah, they just naturally feel cleaner. My mouth does feel better. And the other thing that I've just remembered recently, because I just haven't had them for ages, mouth ulcers. I used to get them regularly. Like every few weeks I'd get a mouth ulcer. Throughout my entire life, I can't remember a time when I didn't get mouth ulcers, apart from the last 3 months. And they used to be quite uncomfortable, quite painful. But again, something I just thought, oh, it's just me, that's something that I get. So, yeah, I mean, are these health benefits real? Well, they're real for me. And the times when I've just questioned, how is this really the way to eat? Like, it's so radically different than a lot of things that are said that we're, ways that we're meant to eat. It just seemed, I questioned it loads, and every time I've just come back to, I cannot deny how I feel. And that's the only thing that I think I can fully trust, how I feel. Now, is there a transition phase? Yes. I mean, there has been so if you're going to enter doing something like this, don't take the decision lightly, and educate yourself and chat to people that are doing it, Everyone's experience is different because everyone's body is different, and how people go into it is very different from what I've seen. Some people just throw themselves straight into it, so obviously their body's going to argue a bit initially because that's, a huge change. For me, I did ease into it more than some, so I think my transition phase was relatively smooth as a result of that. There are certain things I did feel a bit fatigued. Well, probably for the first 4 to 6 weeks, there was a bit of underlying fatigue that I was feeling. But I just thought, hang on, my body is adapting to different ways of doing things. I mean, I go running, and I'd previously fueled myself on carbs, and now I'm not I'm having some carbs in the milk and cheese, but very low carbs compared to what I was doing before. So my body has taken time to become fat adapted, but I'm feeling like the last 3 or 4 weeks that strength is coming back, and my body was stripped back. Everyone seems to go through a transition of a lot of people do this for weight loss, don't they? And you do go through a phase of your body sort of being stripped down a bit initially, and I did lose a little bit of weight. Then it plateaued, but I was on a learning curve as well about how much protein to eat, how much fat to eat, and things like that. So I did lose a bit of strength in that time, but that's gradually, the last 3 to 4 weeks, I'm back into doing some interval training and doing some, bit more faster pace running, whereas before I just kept it to really low intensity stuff while I was going through the transition, because why add more stress to the body when the body is going through those changes? So it's an interesting learning curve. So if anybody else is tempted to do it from what I'm sharing, I definitely recommend it, but go into it, with an open mind, and just know that you're doing something quite different perhaps than you've done before. So there are some changes that your body needs to go through to adapt to that. So just go easy on yourself, really. So, yeah, I may share more in future videos. I don't know, because there's other things that I could sort of talk about around it. And I'm certainly not an expert, and I've just learnt stuff along the way because of experiences that I've had. And and I'm now really comfortable with this and can't see any reason to not continue. Who knows? Future's not certain, but certainly at this point, I can't see a better way of eating for myself. And as I've said, to even dream that I would be saying this and advocating for a carnivore lifestyle 6 months, 12 months ago, it blows my mind. But here I am, here we are, unpicking, unknowing. What do we know anyway? But just go with what you feel.